Hello.
It was a typical fall evening in the city. Keanu Reeves, a famous actor who avoids the hustle and bustle of Hollywood, was walking along the deserted streets, enjoying the peace. He always appreciated the moments when he could be alone with his thoughts. His favorite pastime was simply observing the lives of ordinary people who lived far away from the luxury and attention of the cameras. That evening, he decided to go to a small cafe on the street corner. The cafe was cozy and uncrowded. Wooden tables, warm lighting, and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee created an atmosphere reminiscent of childhood. Keanu chose a table in the corner with a nice view of the hall. He ordered a cup of espresso and opened the book he was carrying with him. For him, these moments were the best way to reboot after a busy shoot. While absorbed in his reading, he would occasionally look up to see how the little cafe was doing. However, his attention was drawn to the family at the next table. There was a young couple with two children. The older boy, who looked to be 7 years old, was holding a toy car, and the younger girl, who looked to be about 5, was clutching a teddy bear. Their parents seemed very concerned. Keanu could not help but notice their exhausted appearance. They were dressed modestly. The man wore an outdated jacket that had probably seen better days, and the woman had a light jacket that clearly did not protect her from the chill of autumn. They didn't look like people who could afford to frequent a cafe, but perhaps they had come here to escape their daily routine for a few minutes. Keanu continued to watch. The man was clenching his hands into fists, and his face was tense. The woman was sitting next to him, sometimes nodding her head as if trying to calm him down. From a distance, it was clear that their eyes were filled with anxiety. Although Keanu couldn't hear the details, their faces told their story. He could sense that this family was in a difficult situation. Not wanting to violate their personal space, Keanu continued to watch in silence. From time to time, he caught snippets of their conversation, although he tried not to listen. However, one phrase stuck with him. "We just can't take it anymore. I don't know how we can pay these bills." The voice belonged to a man, and it sounded hopeless. These words struck Keanu's heart. He knew what it was like to feel helpless. There were moments in his life when he had lost his dearest people, and this taught him to sympathize with other people's pain. It became clear to him that this family was in a critical situation that might have threatened their well-being. He felt that he had to do something. Taking a sip of coffee, Keanu began to think about how best to approach the situation. He didn't want to be intrusive or scare them. Instead, he decided to just wait for a moment when he could strike up a conversation by accident. But time passed, and the family seemed to be getting ready to leave. The father stood up and began to put on his eldest son's jacket, while the mother helped her younger daughter. Before the family left, Keanu got up from his seat and approached the barista. He left a substantial amount of money and asked that it be given to the family if they returned. It was just a small gesture, but he wanted them to know that there are people in the world who are willing to help, even if you don't know them. He hoped that this would be at least a small support for them. Returning to his table, he felt strangely relieved. This was only the first step in his decision to help. His heart told him that he was not done with this story yet. Something about this family touched his soul so deeply that he decided that if fate gave him another chance, he would do everything he could to change their lives. The next day, Keanu Reeves couldn't stop thinking about the family he saw in the cafe. Their anxiety, which was evident in their eyes and gestures, left a deep mark on his heart. He realized that he had to learn more about their situation and find a way to help them. In moments like this, his humanity took precedence over everything else. Keanu decided to return to the same cafe. He hoped that fate would bring him back together with his family, or at least one of the employees would be able to give him more information. He entered the cafe with the same quiet smile that always charmed others and greeted the barista. The young man behind the counter immediately recognized him and was a little confused, as he rarely saw celebrities in the area. Keanu ordered his usual cup of espresso, and then, lowering his voice slightly, asked, "There was a family here yesterday, a man, a woman, and 2 children. They seemed worried. Do you happen to know who they are?" The barista thought for a moment. Remembering, then he answered, "Yes, I remember them. They don't come here often, but they look very modest. I think they live nearby, in an old house 2 blocks away." They always order something minimal for the kids to eat. This information was enough for Keanu to take action. He thanked the bartender, leaving a generous tip, and went in search of the house he had mentioned. Of course, he could have asked his assistants or someone from the team to help him, but this was a personal matter. He felt he had to do it himself. After walking a few streets, Keanu found an old house that almost completely matched the description. It was a small house with peeling paint on the facade and an abandoned yard. He knocked on the door, but no one answered. Perhaps the family was away, or simply not expecting guests. Keanu decided to leave a note, a short message asking them to contact him. He didn't mention his name in the note, just his phone number. A few days later, Keanu's phone rang. On the other end of the line was the voice of a man who sounded a little unsure. "You left a note outside our house. How can we help you?" Keanu was relieved. It was the same man he had seen in the cafe. He briefly explained that he would like to meet and discuss how he could help their family. The man agreed, although he was puzzled by the unexpected offer. The next meeting took place in the same cafe where it all began. Keanu listened to their story without interrupting. The man said that their youngest daughter suffered from a rare disease that required expensive treatment. All of their savings had gone into the first surgeries, but the bills were only growing. They were on the verge of losing their home and didn't know how to get out of this situation. This story touched Keanu to the core. He could not stand by. Although the man didn't ask for help, his eyes revealed what he didn't dare to say out loud. They were desperate. And then Keanu made a decision that would change the life of this family forever. Keanu Reeves was on his way home after meeting his family in a cafe, but his thoughts stayed with them. The story he heard left a mark on his heart. He admired the strength of this family, their ability to stay together even in the face of such serious difficulties. He could not remain indifferent, knowing that he could help. At home, in the quiet of his simple and cozy home, Keanu began to think about how he could do something meaningful. His decision was quick but deliberate. He didn't want to just give money or pay off the debts anonymously, even though that would have been the easiest solution. He realized that this family needed more. Not only financial support, but also the belief that life could change for the better. Keanu decided to proceed gradually and cautiously so as not to scare them or give them the impression that he was imposing or using his fame to show off his goodness. The first step was to gather more information about their situation. Keanu turned to his assistant, whom he trusted completely, and asked him to find out more about the family, their debts, the girl's health, and other details that could help. His team acted quickly and carefully, without disclosing the name of their employer. It turned out that the family's debts amounted to tens of thousands of dollars, most of which were medical bills. Every day was a struggle for their daughter's life, for paying the bills, and for saving their home, which they risked losing because they could not pay the mortgage on time. Keanu started with the basics. He paid off all of the family's medical debts by negotiating a settlement with the hospital. His condition was confidentiality. The family was not to know who had provided the care. He also ensured that their daughter had access to the best medical services to ensure that her treatment would continue without interruption. The next step was to help with the mortgage. Keanu contacted the bank and negotiated a full repayment of the debt. He did so in a way that the family would know about it as a gesture of an anonymous benefactor. This was an important moment for him, not to draw attention to his name, but to stay in the shadows. He wanted these changes in their lives to seem like a miracle that gave them a chance for a new beginning. In addition to financial assistance, Keanu decided to take care of their emotional state. He organized several pleasant surprises for the family. He sent gifts to the children, including toys, books, and educational materials, and also provided them with a few days of vacation in a country hotel where they could spend time together without thinking about problems. He knew that such moments would help them strengthen their family ties and feel closer to each other. After a while, Keanu saw that the changes in their lives were beginning to bear fruit. The man was able to find a job that allowed him to provide for his family without constantly thinking about debt. The woman started volunteering to help other families facing similar difficulties. Her daughter gradually recovered, and her smile, as her parents admitted, became their greatest reward. This story did not leave Keanu indifferent. He realized that he wanted to do more for such families. After some time, he founded a charity foundation that supported families in need of financial and emotional assistance. His goal was not only to cover debts or pay bills, but also to give people the opportunity to start a new life feeling supported and loved. Keanu was not looking for fame or recognition for his actions. It was enough for him to know that he was able to change someone's life for the better. His actions remained invisible to the general public, but it didn't matter. He continued to be the same humble person who appreciated the simple joys of life and believed in the power of kindness. The family he helped always remembered him with gratitude, even without knowing his name. For them, he was what you might call a real guardian angel. Keanu Reeves could have stopped at his noble deeds, but the story of this family was more than just one instance of help for him. It exposed him to the depth of the problems faced by ordinary people and made him realize how much of an impact even one person can have if they decide to act. After founding his charity, Keanu became personally involved in the distribution of funds and the selection of families to be helped. He wanted everything to be fair, transparent, and, most importantly, effective. He believed that he understood best how to support those going through difficult times. His foundation began to cooperate with hospitals, social services, and public organizations. The main focus was on families with children who suffered from illness, job loss, or other life difficulties. One of the main principles of the foundation was not only to solve financial problems, but also to create conditions for people to get back on their feet and secure a stable future. Keanu realized that simply paying off debts was a temporary solution. He needed to give people the tools and opportunities to make changes. So he initiated training and retraining programs for adults who had lost their jobs, as well as educational projects for children. The foundation began organizing meetings where people who had previously received assistance could share their stories. These meetings became a source of inspiration not only for those who were going through difficulties, but also for Keanu himself. He said more than once that these stories motivated him to keep working and do more. He believed that kindness spreads like a chain reaction, and every act of help can be the impetus for something bigger. One of the most touching stories that resulted from the foundation's work was that of a single mother who lost her job due to the pandemic. She was raising 3 children and was struggling to make ends meet. Thanks to the foundation, she was not only able to get the support she needed to pay her bills, but also took a digital marketing course that helped her find a new job. Her eldest son, who dreamed of becoming a programmer, received a scholarship to study through the foundation's program. Keanu was also actively involved in working with children. He visited schools, organized meetings, and helped create curricula. He believed that investing in education was an investment in the future. One of these programs helped create a network of computer labs in small schools where children could learn modern technology. This initiative received a wide response and attracted the attention of other philanthropists who decided to join the project. At times, Keanu reflected on how his own life had changed. His path to success was full of challenges and losses. Perhaps it was these trials that made him so sensitive to other people's pain. He knew that true wealth is not in money or fame, but in how you can use your resources for good. This became his life credo. The story of the family that started it all did not remain just a memory for him. He continued to keep in touch with them, although he did so carefully, so as not to create the feeling that they owed him anything. His help was selfless, but he was happy to see them recover and become stronger. The man found a stable job, the woman became a volunteer, and their daughter, the symbol of their struggle, finally returned to a normal childhood. Every day the foundation expanded, covering new regions and attracting more resources. Keanu often received letters from people who had been helped by his initiative. These words of gratitude were his greatest reward. He continued to live modestly, not seeking fame or recognition. His goal was not only to help, but also to inspire others to do good deeds. Keanu Reeves remained the same humble man who once accidentally walked into a small cafe and saw a family struggling with their difficulties. That evening changed not only their lives, but also his own. He saw how much can be done if you are not afraid to act and believe in the power of good. His story is an example of how each of us can change the world step by step, person by person. The last part of this story began where all the changes became apparent. Keanu Reeves, through his actions, created a movement that began with one random evening in a cafe. His story of kindness and humanity has left a mark on the hearts of many people and made them think about their own contribution to the lives of others. But for Keanu, it was not just a story, it was a calling. The foundation he founded grew into a large-scale organization with thousands of volunteers, dozens of programs, and constant expansion. But most importantly, he remained personally involved in every aspect of its work. Keanu regularly visited the families he helped to see how their lives were changing. His appearance was always a surprise, as he tried to avoid unnecessary attention and worked in the shadows, letting the results speak for themselves. One of these meetings remained in my memory for a long time. He visited a shelter for children without parental care. There were dozens of children there who had gone through hard times, but thanks to the foundation's support, they got a chance for a new life. He saw their smiling faces, heard their dreams of the future, and felt that his efforts were not in vain. One little girl who ran up to him gave him a homemade postcard. It read, "Thank you for being our hero." These words touched his heart so deeply that he could hardly hold back his tears. Over the years, Keanu has repeatedly received offers to talk about his charitable work in the media, but he has refused. His goal was never popularity or praise. He believed that true kindness does not need cameras and headlines. However, the story of his help did become known when those who received help began to tell it. They shared their stories, which inspired other people to get involved in good deeds. Meanwhile, the family from which it all began has completely changed their lives. The man became a successful entrepreneur, opening his own small business. His wife continued to volunteer, but now on a larger scale. Their daughter grew up healthy and happy. She went to college and began studying medicine, dreaming of one day becoming a doctor who would help children the way she had been helped. They never knew that Keanu was the one who helped them in the most difficult moment of their lives. But it didn't matter. Their lives were changed by a man who believed in their strength and gave them a chance for a new beginning. This unknown kindness inspired them to become those who would help others. Keanu Reeves continued his life as modestly as ever. He remained a man who appreciated simple things, walking around the city, talking to friends, reading books. But now his life was filled with deep meaning. He knew he could make the world a little better, and that was enough. His story became a symbol of how one act can change the lives of many. It reminded everyone that even the smallest gesture of kindness matters. And although Keanu always remained in the shadows, his good deeds shone brighter than any spotlight. This was his legacy, a legacy of kindness, humanity, and faith in a better future.
Goodbye.